Henry, as you start, tell him what NRDC stands for.
Natural Resources Defense Council, not National Resources Defense Council. It's a real pleasure. Yeah, Henry Henderson, I'm with NRDC.
Great.
It's a real pleasure to hear you, and I particularly like the underscoring the point of the moral reality of addressing this on an international scale and a national scale. And it's nice to have you here within eyeshot of 20% of the world's fresh water. I think that the need for a plan is critical. I don't exactly agree that there isn't a vision around this. In the Midwest, we sit within one of the most carbon-intensive economies in the world that has been responsible for creating a huge amount of plenty for Americans. And sort of in the 19th century and was really the Silicon Valley of the world. So much of our institutions are dependent upon that and assume the continued release of carbon and greenhouse gases tied to the sense of plenty. The need to change that is absolutely critical. And I think there's some hope in the Midwest about coming to that. I just came from Midwest Governors Association yesterday, where we issued a draft recommendation of a 20% reduction with no free allocations, et cetera, which I think is very good and above what the national debate is. One of the leaders of that was the governor of Michigan, who says, when you hear global warming, people from Michigan in the most seriously falling economy in the country, I think, should think jobs, clean energy, and opportunity for Michigan. So it's a form of leadership tied to what a cap and trade system would make possible in terms of new jobs, new investments, and the shift of the fundamental assumptions of our economy. So I think the idea of saying that we are in a free fall of vision is not exactly right, and we have to seize upon that political leadership as, even if it's not going to solve the problem immediately, starts the discussion about the fact that A, there's climate change, B, addressing it, feeds into a new opportunity for plenty. How do you see us taking that and making it work?
First, thanks for the great work that your organization does and that you do. It's very important. I hope I didn't say a lack of vision, because then I misspoke. I said a lack of a plan. And I mean something quite specific about that. What's going to happen where and when? Now, we're trained to believe, no, you got to let the markets do it. You don't choose this. That's absolutely wrong when we're thinking about a time horizon of a decade. And we need to understand much better what's expected of different regions, what's expected of the coal states, what's expected of the Midwest, what kinds of prices should we expect on a ton of CO2, whether by permits or by other means, what kind of technology demonstrations or diffusion are we going to promote? How is it going to add up to a 15% or 20% reduction? I don't know of anything like that. And I believe that it's the responsibility of our government to put that out. Our government doesn't put out things like that for a very long time. Not only because, well, I think we lost the idea of making plans, actually, in this country. It became market versus plan, and we chose market. That's a very silly way to think about major technological transitions. It's market and plan, and we need plans that are very serious and rather explicit. In the UK, there is the Climate Change Act of 2008, which I think it's 2008, but it has triggered a tremendous amount of detailed planning. It's actually a good roadmap for us in many different areas of how the US could be doing the same, because they've got task forces and commissions on the infrastructure, on carbon capture and sequestration, on the power grid, on the new low emission, high mileage vehicles, all part of a framework that is essentially a planning framework. And they've scoped out in some detail what should happen up to 2015 through energy efficiency, what happens bringing electric vehicles on after 2015 or thereabouts when it starts to scale up, when can carbon capture and sequestration or nuclear or renewables really start to decarbonize the electricity grid, when should the major power grid be built out. Now, whether they do that or not, I don't know, but it's much closer to what I have in mind than anything we have underway in this country. To my mind, again, the cap and trade is a very small part of this whole process because we need big investments in technology demonstration. We need big strategies across sectors. I think we've actually made a big mistake on biofuels, which I don't think we're backing out of, but I think it's ecologically almost a nightmare what we've done. We have to come back to nuclear. We have to get carbon capture and sequestration. We need for the auto sector not just 2 bankruptcies, which is what we're going to get. We actually need a plan for large-scale production of plug-in hybrids and other electric vehicles. That won't happen without a national plan. That was my recommendation to the administration. They've gone the other way in the first steps of putting them into bankruptcy with the good idea of, I mean, maybe justified as cleaning their balance sheets, although I think it may end up undoing this industry entirely. But we've got a president who's, he's to my view, the greatest president we've had in decades. He's got the vision thing, no problem. Telling people, though, it's a wonderful new economy, you're all going to get jobs and get rich out of green technology is not a plan. It's not even believed. The Wall Street Journal is going to be more believed when they read Marty Feldstein saying your electricity bills are going up and this is going to stop the recovery. And that's what needs to be answered, in my opinion.
I promised Jeff he'd get out of here at 12:30, which is upon us. Maybe 1 or 2 quick questions, and then Lisa, I'd really like to turn it to you if you have anything that you'd like to add. Attorney General of the state of Illinois, Lisa Madigan. Question was here. Who had one? You yield. He yields. Okay, come over here.
I hope that doesn't mean you think these answers are hopeless. Worthless.
I'm Bob Mosley from the Nature Conservancy here in Illinois. And in a previous life, I used to work in climate adaptation stuff in Asia, on the Tibetan Plateau. And I was really interested to hear your assessment that in terms of the knowledge of this business of climate adaptation, we're only slightly above 0. Yet, when I was more involved in this, there was a lot of national climate adaptation plans going on in the developing world. I've been out of that for a while, but are you familiar with that and kind of quick assessment of how that's going, given that you don't think we know how to do it?